In this video, Dr. Dikki Jo Mullen will discuss astrology and SpaceX. She will explore the history and genius of Elon Musk and talk about Nikola Tesla, another genius of the 20th century, and Stephen Hawking, and the similarities and association between them and their various forms of research.
Hello, this is astrologer and paranormal investigator Reverend Dr. Dikki Jo Mullen, coming to you from the Space Coast, well, almost the Space Coast in downtown Orlando, Florida. Space, the final frontier. Long ago in a galaxy far away. Those sayings from the Star Wars series seem to be coming true on a daily basis here as we discover more and more about the sphere of space around us. The world is widening and changing, and every day our technology and the human experience reflects our knowledge of the ever-expanding universe. Of course, it's been there for ions and ions, but we're just finding out more about it, which means we're capable of responding to it. For example, the planet Pluto, it's a planet again, wasn't really discovered until about 1930, but of course it was there all along. And around that time that the atomic age began. And our world every day, technology seems to be doubling and tripling in an eye blink. On February the 6th, 2018, at 1:45 p.m. in Cape Canaveral, Florida, the world changed forever. History was not only made, but it was rewritten when SpaceX was successfully launched, the most powerful rocket ever built. And on board was Starman, kind of a dummy. I hate to call him a dummy, though. He seems kind of bright. Maybe a model, headed toward Mars, seated in a red Tesla Roadster. I could feel it all standing in front of my home in Orlando, at least 40 miles away. The earth trembled, the rumble was heard, and a tongue of orange flame soared heavenward into this incredibly blue sky, trailed by a smoke plume. It is thought that the rocket might be in orbit for millions, if not billions of years from that moment on. Two launch side core columns gracefully returned to the launch pad, and a little tiny glitch, a minor setback, was that a third rocket core was lost at sea, but that was incidental. This was quite miraculous. A horoscope for the event of the launch is really intriguing. Not just people, but events will have horoscopes. And I did an astrology chart for February the 6th at 3:45 p.m. in Orlando, near Orlando, Florida, and Cape Canaveral, the Space Coast, and the sun was at 18 degrees of Aquarius, the moon at 8 Scorpio, Mercury at 10 Aquarius, and Venus was at 24 Aquarius, Mars at 6 Sagittarius, Jupiter was in Scorpio, Saturn in Capricorn, Uranus in Aries, Neptune in Pisces, Pluto in Capricorn, the moon node in Leo, and the ascendant or rising sign was Cancer. The 8th house in this event chart was very strong. The 8th house is about death, rebirth, and renewal. And the fixed star Sirius was right rising on the ascendant. Sirius, the dog star, the most visible star in the heavens, has a tremendous amount of mythological, astrological lore attached to it that I think was very significant, relating to higher consciousness and divine energies afoot. Elon Musk, like Nikola Tesla, was inspired by the sun sign of Cancer, the rising sign of this event. Hailed as a genius, Elon Musk was born on June 28th of 1971 in Pretoria, South Africa. And a look at his horoscope connected with all the miracles of the widening world around us is quite fascinating. Nikola Tesla as well as Elon Musk, and Elon kind of, I think, must relate to Tesla, even though he lives near her. I haven't had the privilege of meeting him, maybe someday. Sun in Cancer, Moon in precise technical Virgo, Mercury in Cancer, Venus in Gemini, Mars in Aquarius, Jupiter in Scorpio in retrograde motion, Gemini, the sign for his Saturn, Uranus in Libra, Neptune retrograde in Sagittarius, Pluto in Virgo, North Moon node in Aquarius. Elon Musk, like many Cancerians, was imprinted by childhood traumas. He was severely bullied at school to the point of being pushed down a flight of stairs, suffering a head injury. That's interesting. Beaten, and he was very much considered debilitated and an indifferent student for a while, like Einstein. And then he recovered. He is of British and Dutch ancestry, and he was able to immigrate to Canada and go to Queen's University in Ontario. Then he managed to get to the United States to go to the University of Pennsylvania, graduating with 2 bachelor's degrees, one in physics and one in economics. 2 days into his PhD program, Elon Musk decided it wasn't for him and dropped out to pursue his own vision. Before becoming the CEO and founder of SpaceX, which is a privately owned space agency, he's planning to send a real man to Mars. I don't know if he'd consider a female astronaut or not. I'm not up for the job because he thinks the first colonists will probably die. And it's interesting, at least he's honest about announcing that. But he founded PayPal and then also Tesla Motors. And Musk has some very interesting thoughts about the future of humanity. Artificial intelligence, he feels, is the greatest threat to the human race, and the environmental dangers are next that loom. He clashes with Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg and with President Trump on these important contemporary issues. Thinking about SpaceX and Elon Musk, we really should take a look at Nikola Tesla, the benevolent wizard who was his inspiration. And it's been predicted that at least another 1,000 years will pass before the rest of the world will comprehend the depth and breadth of Nikola Tesla's genius. There are smart people who are a dime a dozen, but real inspired genius is something else. And I'm a Cancer, pay no attention. It brings tears to my eyes to think of the lives and how these people affected us. Tesla's legacy is our entire modern world. He didn't just touch on the concept, but he actually invented technology, alternating current, radio, X-rays, robotics, wireless communication, your cell phones, refined lasers, remote controls, and more can all be linked to the tireless efforts and genuine magic of Tesla's inventiveness. Frequently described as the most influential, inventive, enigmatic, and purely brilliant individual who's ever lived, Tesla was born at midnight, July 9th to 10th, 1856 in Serbia, which is near the town of Gospic, Croatia nowadays. The fixed star Sirius comes up again, located in the sign of Cancer. It's the brightest star in the heavens, and it's pivotal in Tesla's birth chart. And it's so interesting to an astrologer how this was exactly on the ascendant at the moment that SpaceX went off, all part of the whole. This powerful star has been linked with evolution and inspiration since at least the times of the ancient Egyptians, and it activates Tesla's Cancerian sun, and his natal Venus, which is the ruler of his Taurus ascendant, and his Saturn, the third and fourth houses of his natal chart, are involved. As is true with many Cancerians, his mother seems to have had an especially strong influence on him. She was locally famous as an inventor of clever household gadgets. Tesla's father was an Orthodox priest, and as an ethic of service to humanity, working for the common good, a major motivation of stimulating Tesla's efforts might be traced to this early and intense religious training. Mercury in Tesla's natal chart is in its ruling sign of Gemini and in the ruling house placement of the third. This is said to be in double essential and accidental dignity, which means he was very witty with great communication skills. Tesla spoke 8 languages, and he excelled in early schooling. As a teenager, he was enrolled in an engineering program at Graz University in Prague and completed a degree in just over a year early. This is a 4-year degree. And after that, he had illness, a complete nervous breakdown, because he had been studying 19 hours daily and not eating or sleeping very much. While recovering, Tesla observed some incredible phenomena, strange and unbelievable. Now, to a psychic, this would suggest that the hidden qualities of the brain, certain parts of the brain that deal with intuition and perception, were affected by the things that happened to him. He said that after the illness and the time at university, his vision and hearing intensified outside of the normal human capacity. Were there aliens involved? Was he an alien? There are theories that certain kinds of us are and may not know it. He could sense objects in the dark, just like a bat or maybe a cat might. And it was a period in which his sensitivities were so heightened that flashes of light, which he said he had seen since his childhood, now filled the air around him with tongues of living flame. Their intensity, instead of diminishing, increased throughout his life. His responses were so keenly tuned that a word would become an image that he could feel and taste. It was during this time that he had one of his most famous ideas, and that was of the rotating magnetic field and introduction of the alternating current induction motor. Tesla retained an extremely acute sense of hearing, his exceptional eyesight, and vivid powers of visualization into old age. He used to say that his inspirations and inventions would come to him in a flash, fully ready. Pluto was rising in his horoscope in Taurus, and coupled with his first house, Uranus. The first house is the physical self. This suggests sensitivity to sound, a transformative experience, intensity, and originality. His Venus, ruler of the ascendant, is in Cancer, in a fortunate mutual reception with the moon in Libra. Mutual receptions are when planets are in each other's ruling signs. They're incredibly fortunate. They show the ability to change places. And in Tesla's case, it enabled him, because the 6th house is health, to recover from his early health crisis and enabled the eventual positive income of all of his work. He began a career working with the Central Telegraph Office in Budapest, Hungary, and then eventually immigrated to the United States. There he soon met Thomas Edison, who recognized young Tesla's potential and hired him. Then the two later became bitter rivals when Tesla correctly insisted that alternating, not direct current, was the secret to expanding the use of electrical power for the masses. And retrograde Chiron in Aquarius in Tesla's natal chart in his 10th house describes shift in direction as well as painful experiences with colleagues. Throughout his career path, he had friendships and business relationships with all of what we would call the A-listers today of his day. John Jacob Astor, Mark Twain, George Westinghouse, Rudyard Kipling, and J.P. Morgan, who, by the way, made all of his billions using astrology, waxed and waned during the course of Tesla's life and his circle of friends. The strong Taurus influence in Tesla's chart shows that he was a person of habit. For many years, he dined exactly at 8 p.m. at the same table at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York City. A fresh white tablecloth and napkin were essential, and he had to have honey, bread, milk, fresh vegetables, and juices. He was a vegetarian, one of the first. I smile because of all the feedback I get from my non-vegan friends here. Although honey is an animal food, so he wasn't strictly a vegan. Anyway, this promoted, he told, the key to wellness and longevity for everybody. His sixth house placements described his fastidiousness. He was a germaphobe, concerned with the cleanliness of his clothes and surroundings long before that became chic. And also he had to calculate the exact cubic volume of each piece of food before he ate it, or he didn't enjoy his meal. Usually he dined alone. Anyway, very, very interesting character. Talking about the outer reaches of space, the widening world around us, we absolutely have to mention Dr. Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking was born in 1942. He was born on January the 8th, 1942, in Oxfordshire, England. And he also was an indifferent student. And he, of course, wrote A Brief History of Time, the best-selling science book of all time. And he came up with the concept of black holes and gave us an idea of how vast space really is. He was struck with Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, at age 21. Usually there's only a couple years of survival, but he beat the odds and lived to be 76 years old, over 5 decades with Lou Gehrig's disease. He passed away on Pi Day, 3/14, March 14th, which was Albert Einstein's birthday, and they both passed away at the age of 76. Now, numerology and other patterns as far as longevity all tie in with some of the deeper numerical concepts in the horoscope, and it sort of shows a broad pattern to possibly look at that. A glance at Stephen Hawking's chart shows great determination. He often would tell people that it gave him more time to think because he was in a wheelchair, and he spoke through an electronic microphone because he lost his ability to speak many years ago, and he had quite a sense of humor, often saying he never expected to get that far. He managed to have 2 wives and 3 children, and definitely is an inspiration. He had an exact Moon-Neptune conjunction in Virgo. Virgo represents precision and detail. Neptune is very spiritual and intuitive, and that conjunction was within orb, just a short distance from an exact trine with his Mercury. Mercury, of course, is communication and the intellect. And like many inventors, he had an Aquarius element in his birth chart. He had Venus there, which represents creativity, and Mars in its own ruling sign of Aries, which perhaps gave him the drive and get up and go to rise above the Lou Gehrig's disease and to change our world and create just a memorable view of how much there is around us. An extra little interesting aside about the space program and space lore and the widening world, how it might be affecting those of us who will travel to Mars and other places, ties in with the experiment with astronaut Scott Kelly and his identical twin, also an astronaut, Mark Kelly. Mark stayed home on Earth, and Scott Kelly went up into space for a very, very long time. When he came back, his DNA had changed, and 7% of it to date never returned to normal. And the idea is that being in outer space, radiation, the energies coming at us differently affect us. A strong statement for the validity of astrology, which bases that we all respond to radiant energy around us that affects us, as above, so below, as within, so without. This is astrologer and paranormal investigator Dikki Jo Mullen sharing some thoughts about SpaceX and beyond.